In this video, we're going to look at the view options, and they're found here with the view tool on your main toolbar. And when I click on that, it shows me a list of different ways that I can change the way that my design will be viewed. And so to demonstrate that, I think what I will do is just click on my browser and double click on one of the CMX artworks to quickly create some embroidery. Then when I come to the view tool, you'll notice the very first option is called Stitches, and it's checked off, which means it's turned on currently, and it has a hotkey of the letter G, and if I click on that, it will uncheck it, and therefore I will only see my graphic in terms of the artwork and the color of the shapes, unless I go back to View menu and click again on Stitches to turn that back on. Now, the letter G that's displayed beside Stitches, that's the hotkey, which means even if I don't use my view menu and I simply type the letter G on my keyboard, I can quickly turn on and off viewing the stitches. So the next option is 3D preview, same idea. Checkbox, it's on or it's off, and the hotkey is the letter P. So if I type the letter P on my keyboard, I can go from 3D preview to kind of a standard view. And when you have this standard view, if I zoom in a little bit, you see how the stitches are more clear and sort of thin computer generated lines versus when you type P on the keyboard, then you see them with a little bit more thickness in a 3D realistic preview. So that's how you can turn those on and off. Now, the next option is called the thickness view. And when I turn on thickness view, it changes to a set of colors that as your stitches overlap, they change to green. And if there's more stitching overlap, then it will go to yellow. And then if there's even more of that, it'll go to red. And so it becomes kind of like a way to check. This design's obviously fairly good. It's got mostly green, but sometimes if you've done a layout and you've been combining designs and there could be areas where there's sort of more than one layer of embroidery together, then you may find, this is a way that you can check these things and then you can decide what to do with it. So perhaps we'll do a separate recording for a little bit more on that topic, but generally speaking, under your view menu, this is how you can turn on or off the thickness view. So if I turn it off, we'll go back to your standard kind of stitching view, which is set with the 3D turned on at the moment. So the other option here is called Realistic Paint, and very much like 3D preview, Realistic Paint, if turned on, would get any areas that we may have selected in our design if we use the paint technique. So there currently are none, but if I select this area right here and change it from a step fill, an embroidery step fill, to a paint step, then you can see that if I turn on and off the realistic paint, turn it off, it just shows me the color again. If I turn it back on, it kind of gives me a realistic example of what it will look like when it does the paint technique with my, with a pen and your digital cutting machine. So another view option is overlapping crystals. And I think for now, I'll set that aside, and I know that I want to record a specific video just to learn a little bit more about overlapping crystals, but this is an on-off. So when we're working with crystals, if you want to see crystals that are overlapping, you check this box and it shows you any crystals that are touching each other. If you uncheck it, it will not tell you the crystals that are touching each other. Now, the next option is called Set Light Source, and it's rather interesting because with this tool, and I'll just move it over so we can still see our bulldog here, and maybe just zoom out a little bit. So, Mr. Bulldog, this is the light source for the 3D stitching. Here, let's undo to put stitching back in his hat. So if I move the light source around, see how it changes, and the further I get away from the center, the kind of darker it does, and I can change the light source to kind of come from underneath them or above them or beside them. So I usually set it kind of close to the middle and just maybe slightly off-centered a little bit, and it gives a nice, bright, and interesting 3D look. But that's how you can adjust it, and you can also adjust how the luminosity or how bright it's going to be, and you can turn that down or back up. So that's kind of how I like to keep it. And then again, you'll just close that. But that would be found under your view toolbar as well. Now, the next option is about your grids and your guidelines. And I don't currently have any guidelines on my screen, and we will have another video about creating guidelines from our toolbar down here at the bottom. But the idea is this is how you'll turn them on or off. So if I click on grid and it's on show, you can see the grid. If I click on show again, it'll not show the grid. So that's an on-off button for both the grids and the guidelines. Now, if I turn the grid back on, then there's also the option to snap. And when snap is turned on, that means when you're digitizing, when you're creating shapes or using the digitize tool, if you put your mouse close to the guidelines or the grid lines, the point will snap to it. So sometimes you want that turned on, and sometimes you want that turned off. And so that is how you can uncheck or check the snap option for grids and guidelines. And so below that, we have the hoop on and off. So again, if I uncheck that, maybe if I zoom out, you'll see that it shows no embroidery hoop, just the grid, I guess. But if I turn the hoop back on, then it shows me the embroidery hoop that I have selected. So the final thing down here is going to be an option for what toolbars do you have turned on currently. And so what, view toolbars. So we have the properties bar turned on, the help bar turned on, the colors bar turned on. Oh, sorry, the help bar is not turned on. I'll click on help to turn it on, and you'll see it opens up our help menu. And notice that if I move the help menu around my screen, for example, if I put it right there, it actually makes a space for it. And so it actually could be a toolbar. And if you want to, you can click and drag to take it back off of the toolbar space to make it back to kind of a little floating window style of viewing it, and place it wherever you want. Maybe like there, make it kind of fairly big so that you could read and look at something and then maybe move it over and try it. Oops, don't move it over into an empty space. Or simply close it. And then when you want it again, go to your view, toolbars, and help, and turn it back on. So I like to keep it out like this, floating. Whoops. Now look, I've done it again. Put it on the side. Sorry. I'll bring it out and make it a reasonable shape, and then I'll close it. And that way, the next time I turn on my view, help, it will come back to wherever I've left it. So you can just close that. Now, the status bar is the last thing on the menu, and it's down at the bottom. If you uncheck that, it takes away the information bar that's at the very bottom of your screen. And if I go view and status bar and turn that back on, then can you see it says, the number of items in the design and the estimated number of stitches and the number of colors, etc. So that is your view menu. And similarly, there is a view drop-down menu that also gives you the similar tools. I believe in here we may have additional option for zoom to get to the zoom tools, in and out, or pan, and the hotkeys for those, letter Z. So zoom in is letter Z, zoom all, F4. So those are things that you can type on your keyboard. Letter Z gives you the zoom tool. So quick letter Z. Draw a box to zoom in, and I like to hold the control key on my keyboard and scroll my mouse to zoom. We'll talk more about zooming in another video. Last thing, the view drop-down menu has an option at the bottom to save your current workspace as your default. And so that way, if you make changes, it'll know to save those as well. And so that is all of the different ways that you can adjust viewing an embroidery design.